Hello and welcome to my November 2022 predicted paper. This one is for AQA GCSE Maths Foundation Paper 1. For this first question we need to circle the square number. A square number is obtained by multiplying a number by itself. So 1 times 1, that's 1. 2 times 2, that's 4. 3 times 3, that's 9. 4 times 4, 16, and so on. You can see that 9 is in our list and that's a square number, so the answer is 9. For question 2, we need to circle the expression that means 3 more than y. To get something that's 3 more than y, you'll need to add 3 to it. So the answer is y plus 3. For this question, we need to circle the rhombus, that's this first shape here. So a rhombus is a 4-sided shape, a quadrilateral, with all sides the same length and opposite angles are equal. You should also note the other shapes. This one's a trapezium, this one's a parallelogram, and this one here is a kite. For this question we need to work out 17.24 divided by 3.2. Notice how the digits in this question are the same as the digits in the one we've been given here. So 1724 divided by 3.2. In fact the only difference is we need to work out 17.24, but the question tells us about 1724. 1724 is 100 times bigger than 17.24. So the answer to our question must be 100 times smaller than the one they got. So if we do 100 times smaller than 538.75, we get 5.3875. For this question we need to select 4 of these digits to make the largest possible number. So we'll start with the largest digit, that's 9. Then the next largest, that's 8. Then the next one, that's 6. And the next one, that's 5. So it's 9865. For part B of the question we need the largest number, but this time it needs to be even. If it's going to be an even number it must end in 2, 6 or 8. Now since we want this number to be large as well, and 8 and 6 are quite large numbers compared to the rest, we'll actually put 2 at the end. So we'll now start with the largest number that's left, which is 9. Then the next one, which is 8. And the next one, which is 6. So we end up with 9862. This time we want the smallest odd number. If it's an odd number, it must end in 5, 9 or 3. Now this time we want the smallest number, and you can see that 3 and 5 are quite small compared to the rest of our numbers here, so we're going to leave the 9 at the end. Now we start with the smallest number possible, that's 2, then 3, then 5. So the smallest possible number that's odd is 2, 3, 5, 9. For this question we need to work out 3/4 of 120. We'll start by finding 1/4. To do 1/4 you divide 120 by 4. That gets you 30. Then we take this and multiply it by 3 to get 3/4, so 30 times 3 is 90, and that's the answer. For this question, Gwen is going to buy 3 bunches of bananas that cost £2.50 each. So if we do 3 times £2.50, you get £7.50. We also have 1 can of drink that costs 60p, so if we add that on to the £7.50, we get £8.10. So the total spend is £8.10. We're told that she pays with a £10 note, and we need to work out how much change she receives, so if we do £10, take away £8.10, we get £1.90, which is the answer to the question. In this question, we need to work out the area of a parallelogram. To do that, you multiply the base by the perpendicular height. The base of this one is 6 centimeters, the perpendicular height is 2 centimeters, so 2 times 6 gives you 12, so the answer is 12 centimeters squared. In this question we need to draw a triangle but make sure the area is 12 centimeters squared. The formula for an area of a triangle is half times base times perpendicular height, and we need to make sure this equals 12. If this is going to equal 12, then the base times the perpendicular height must equal 24. Since half of 24 does give you 12. So we need to select a base and a perpendicular height that multiply to make 24. You could for example have this triangle here. The base is 6, the perpendicular height is 4, so 6 times 4 is 24, and half of that is 12. You could also have this triangle here, a base of 4 and a perpendicular height of 6, or this triangle here, a base of 8 and a perpendicular height of 3. As long as your base times your perpendicular height makes 24, you'll be okay for this question. There are actually many different triangles you could draw. For this question we need to draw a diameter. That's a straight line that goes through the centre of the circle, so make sure it goes through that cross. For this part, we need to draw a segment. To draw a segment, you first of all need to draw a chord, which is a line that goes across the circle like this, and the segment is the region that it bounds, so this one here. Make sure you carefully label which part is the segment. In this question, Richard has a prize and he's going to give 10% of that to Sean. To do 10% of 600, we just divide it by 10, so 10% equals £60. He's also going to give 2/3 of the prize to Neil, so we need to do 2/3 of £600. First of all, we do 1/3 by dividing 600 by 3, that's 200, and to get 2/3 we just double this, so 200 times 2 is £400. So £60 to Sean and £400 to Neil. We need to find out the total amount of money given to Sean and Neil, so we just add those together. 400 plus 60 is £460. In this question, Emma spends 1¼ hours revising. We need to turn this into minutes. 1 hour is 60 minutes, and 1/4 of an hour is 15 minutes. So in total, Emma revises for 75 minutes. We now need to write the ratio that Damien spends revising to what Emma spends revising. So Damien is 50, and Emma is 75. We also need to give this in its simplest form because the question says so. If you divide both sides of this by 25, 50 divided by 25 is 2, and 75 divided by 25 is 3. So the fully simplified ratio is 2 to 3. In this question, we need to work out 35% of k. We're told what 10% and 5% are, so if we start with 10%, that's 1.4. We take another 10%, that's now 20%. We take another, that's 30%, and then take 5%. So if you add up all of these, you get 35%, and 1.4 add 1.4 add 1.4 add 0.7 gets you 4.9. So 35% of k is 4.9. For the second part, we need to work out the value of k. Now we're told 10% of k equals 1.4. To find the value of k, we need to work out what 100% is. To get 100%, you could times both sides by 10. 10% times 10 is 100%, and 1.4 times 10 is 14. So k must be 14. In this question, we've got 9 students and 8 students that choose to do maths and English homework respectively, so that's 9 plus 8, which is 17 students. We need to find out the percentage of students that work on science homework, and that's the remaining amount. There are 20 students in total, so 20 take away 17 gets you 3 students for science. But the answer isn't 3, the answer is a percentage. So the fraction of students that chose science is 3 out of the total 20. To turn this into a percentage, I need to write it over 100. To get from 20 to 100, I multiply by 5, so do 3 times 5, which gets you 15. Since it's 15 over 100, that's 15%. In this question, a player gets to play the game 24 times. Since this is a fair spinner with 3 equal sections, you'd expect to get each one of the sections 1/3 of the time. So if we do 1/3 of 24, 24 divided by 3 gives you 8. You'd expect to get each of the values 8 times. So we'll do £5 times 8, which is £40, £2 times 8, which is £16, and £1 times 8, which is £8. So the total amount of money you'd expect to win is £40, add £16, add £8, which gets you £64. For this question, we need to do 24.8 times 3.2. To do this, I would imagine the decimal points aren't there for a moment, so instead do 248 times 32. If we do this, we start with the 2, do 2 times 8, which is 16, then 2 times 4, which is 8, but add 1 to get 9, then 2 times 2, which is 4. Now we move on to this 3 here, but this 3 represents 30, so we put down a 0 placeholder. Now do 3 8s, which are 24, 3 times 4, which is 12, then add this 2 to get 14, and 3 times 2 is 6, add the 1 to get 7. If we now add these, 6 add 0 is 6, 9 add 4 is 13, 4 and 4 and the 1 makes 9, and then 7. So 248 times 32 is 7,936. But that wasn't the question we were asked to do. If you compare the question we've done to the question we were supposed to do, 248 is 10 times larger than 24.8. 32 is 10 times larger than 3.2, so our question is 100 times too large. So if we divide the answer we got by 100, you get 79.36, which is the answer to the question. In this question we have 20 counters which are red, and we're told the ratio of red to blue is 5 to 3. So if we write the ratio, red to blue is 5 to 3, and since we know there are 20 red, we can put the 20 underneath the 5. To get from 5 to 20 you times by 4, so let's do 3 times 4, which gets you 12. This tells you if there are 20 red counters, there must be 12 blue counters. We're also told the total counters in the bag is 60, so if we add up the ones we have so far, we've got 20 red and 12 blue, so that's 32, and the remaining counters must be yellow, so the 60 total, take away 32, gives you 28. So there are 28 yellow counters. In this question we're told that AB is 6 meters, so let's add that to the diagram. We're then told that AC is 3 times AB, so if AB is 6, AC must be 3 times 6, which is 18 meters. So we know that AC is 18 meters. Now using this information we can work out the length of BC, since AB and BC must add together to make 18. So if we do 18 take away 6, we find that BC is 12, so we can add that to the diagram. We're then told that BD is 5 lots of AB, remember AB is 6, so BD is 5 lots of 6, which is 30. So from B to D is 30. We can now work out CD. Since BC and CD must add together to make 30, we do 30 take away 12, which is 18. So CD is 18 meters. This question though said give your answer in centimeters. Since there are 100 centimeters in a meter, we just times 18 by 100, so you get 1,800. And that's the answer to the question. In this question we need to complete the table. We're told there are 25 coloured shapes in total. So if we add up the shapes we've got 4, add 6, add 3, add 4, add 3. If you add all of those together you get 20, and since the total is 25, we do 25 take away 20 to get 5. So the missing value in the table for blue circles is 5. For the next part we need to work out the probability that a shape selected at random is a square. So if you look at the squares, we've got 4 blue squares and 6 red squares, so in total there are 10 squares. We know there are 25 shapes altogether, so we've got 10 over 25. The question asks for this fraction in simplest form though, so if you divide both of these by 5, you get 10 divided by 5 which is 2, and 25 divided by 5 which is 5. So the answer is 2 over 5, or 2/5. For this question we have x which is an integer, and it must obey both of these inequalities. So if we look at the first one here, -3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4. This just means all of the numbers that are in between -3 and 4. And since we have the less than or equal to signs, it can actually be -3 and it can also be 4. So we have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. For the next inequality it goes from -6 to 0, but this time we don't have the or equal to signs, so we can't actually have -6 and we can't actually have 0. So instead of starting at -6, we'll start at -5. Then -4, -3, -2, -1, and we can't include 0, remember. Now we need to select the numbers that work for both of these inequalities, and the numbers you can see that are in both lists are -3, -2, and -1. So that's the answer to the question. In this question we need to write 3/8 as a decimal. It's worth remembering that 3/8 just means 3 divided by 8, so that's what we'll do using a bus stop. We'll put 3 inside the bus stop but add some zeros after the decimal point, and put 8 outside. Then say 8's into 3, which is 0, remainder 3. 8's into 30 is 3, remainder 6. 8's into 60 is 7, remainder 4, and 8's into 40 is 5. So the answer is 0.375. In this question we need to solve an equation. On the right hand side of the equation we've got lots of x terms that we need to simplify. We've got 3x, and plus 7x and minus x. 3x plus 7x is 10x, and then take away one more x gives you 9x. So we could write this as 33 equals 9x take away 3. To solve this we add 3 to both sides. If you add 3 to the left you get 36, add 3 to the right you'll just be left with 9x. Now divide both sides by 9, on the left you get 4, and on the right you get x. So x equals 4. In this question we need to know the value of tan 60. You've got this table here which shows you all of the exact trig values you need to memorise for your exam. You can see the value of tan 60 is square root 3. For this question, we need to write the ratio 8 to 5 in the form n to 1. So start with the ratio 8 to 5, and we need to write this in the form something, which is n, which we're going to work out, to 1. On the right hand side of these ratios, to get from 5 to 1 you divide by 5. So we divide by 5 on the left hand side as well. 8 divided by 5 gives you 1.6. So the answer is 1.6 to 1. Now there is another way of doing this question you may find useful. When we come to do 8 divided by 5, some people may find this tricky. But it just so happens in the answers for this you could write 8 over 5 as 8 divided by 5, and the mark scheme from previous years shows that this is okay. So if you're unsure how to do this when dividing as a decimal, my advice would just be write it as a fraction. 8 divided by 5 is the same as 8 over 5. For this question we need to divide 180 into this ratio. So let's write the ratio, and then count up the parts. We've got 1 part, 4 parts, and 5 parts. That's 10 parts. Since we're dividing 180 as the total amount, we write that underneath the 10 parts. To get from 10 to 180, you multiply by 18. So we'll multiply all of the numbers on the left by 18 as well. 1 times 18 is 18, 4 lots of 18 is 72, and 5 lots of 18 is 90. So the answer is 18 to 72 to 90. For this question, we need to work out the product of 2 1/3 and 1 1/2. The word product means multiply, so we need to multiply 2 1/3 by 1 1/2. To do this, we'll convert these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we'll start with 2 1/3. We do 2 times 3, which is 6, and then add 1 to get 7, so it's 7 over 3. And for the 1 1/2, we do 1 times 2, which is 2, and then add 1 to get 3, so this is 3 over 2. Now we can just times the numerators, 7 times 3, that's 21, and times denominators, 3 times 2 is 6. You can divide both of these by 3 to simplify, so 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. The question said give your answer as a decimal, so this is 7 over 2, or 7 divided by 2, and half of 7 is 3.5. For this question, we'll start with the top of the fraction, 5 to the 4 times 5 squared. When you multiply like this, you just add the powers, so 4 add 2 gets you 6, so the top of the fraction is 5 to the power 6. And we'll keep the bottom the same as 5 to the power negative 3. Now we need to divide. The rule when you divide is you subtract the powers, so we need to do 6, take away, negative 3. This is the same as 6 add 3, which is 9. So the answer to the question is 5 to the power 9. For this question, we've got 2/5 of the students have Snapchat and TikTok. So we need to work out 2/5 of the total students, and that's 100. So we do 100 divided by 5 to get 1/5, and that's 20. And then to get 2/5, we times this by 2, so 20 times 2 gets you 40. So 40 students had Snapchat and TikTok. That goes in the intersection, in the middle of the Venn diagram. Now we have 15 students that had Snapchat but not TikTok. That's this left section here, so 15 students, Snapchat but not TikTok. And then we've got 75 students have TikTok in total. This means that the whole of the TikTok circle here needs to add up to 75. There's already 40 in this circle from earlier, so we do 75, take away 40, which gets you 35. So the missing value in this circle is 35. Now we've got 15, 40 and 35 people. If we add all of those together, that's 90, but we know there's 100 in total. So if we do 100 take away 90, we get 10. So the value that goes in the bottom of the diagram here is 10. That's the people that don't have Snapchat and also don't have TikTok. For this question, we need to use trigonometry to work out the length of x. We start by labelling the triangle. I like to label the hypotenuse first, that's the longest side opposite the right angle. Then the opposite, which is opposite the angle in the question, so the one opposite the 60 is this one, and the final one must be adjacent. In this question, I'll need to use a and h, so this will be a cos question. So cos of the angle, which is 60, equals the adjacent, which is x, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 9. To solve this, I times by 9 on both sides. That will give me 9 times cos 60 equals x. And now I need to work this out. Now at this point, you'd normally reach for your calculator, but cos 60 is one of those values you need to know. Cos 60 equals 1/2, so we can replace the cos 60 with 1/2. And now we need to do 9 times 1/2. Well, half of 9 is 4.5, so that's the answer to the question. In this question, we need to work out what Andy's mistake is. So let's imagine we were trying to find the angle y. We start by labelling the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent. And we end up with O and A, so we're using tan. Andy's used tan as well, so that's correct. So tan of y equals the opposite, which is 7, divided by the adjacent, which is 12. Now you can see from Andy's working that he went for 12 over 7. So Andy's mistake is that he's written the fraction the wrong way up. It should be 7 over 12. For the first part of this question, we need to work out the range of the number of detentions. The range is the biggest, take away the smallest. So we need to find the biggest and smallest number of detentions. If you look in the detentions column, you can see the smallest number of detentions was 0, that was 5 people had 0 detentions, and the largest number of detentions is 4. You have to be careful here. 5 isn't the largest number of detentions because the frequency is 0. So 4 take away 0 gets you 4. For part B of this question, we're told the median number of detentions is 1, and we need to work out the largest value of A. A is the number here in the table. Now normally when working out the median, you find the total frequency, which we call n, you add 1 to it, and then divide it by 2, and this tells you where to look in the table. But this time we've been told what the median is. It's a 1. So one of those 10 people that had 1 detention is our median value. Since we want to make A as large as possible, it will actually be the last person from that group. So if we add up how many people we have up to that point, we've got the 5 people with 0 detentions and the 10 people with 1 detention, so there are 15 people. So the last person in that group that had 1 detention would be the 15th person. So we want n plus 1 over 2 to be the 15th person. To solve this equation, you could times both sides by 2, and you'll get n plus 1 equals 30, and then take 1 from both sides, and you'll get n equals 29. This tells us the total amount of frequency needs to add up to make 29. If we add up the numbers we already have, we've got 5 and 10 and 7 and 1 and 0, which gets 23. So if we do 29 take away 23, we get 6, which is the answer to the question. In this question, we need to work out the vector a plus 3b. So we'll take vector a and add 3 lots of vector b. If we leave the first vector as it is, and times the second vector by 3, we've got 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3, and 3 times 2, which is 6. If we now do 5 plus negative 3, we get 2, and negative 3 plus 6, we get 3. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. There are some grey boundaries here which are similar to those ones from the summer. Check out the video that I think you should watch next and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.